Tonight at 5, Hanging On.
To me, it really isn't true.
A grieving family opens up for the first time about TERI LEIKER, one of the 10 people who lost their lives in Boulder last week.
I know it is, but it's in my mind. I'm thinking, no, it isn't true.
Plus, Colorado Democrats make a move to end the use of some sedatives by first responders. And as George Floyd's death goes in front of a jury, Denver's black police officers open up about the difficult duality they deal with.
Are you a police officer or are you black first? You know, in my opinion, it's not a choice to be made.
When somebody dies, you're sad. But in a situation like this, it's just unbelievable. To me, it really isn't true.
Tonight, we pause to honor TERI LEIKER. She was a Special Olympian and a dedicated King Soopers employee. She was a loving friend and a hard worker.
And her mother spoke for the first time today. In a very emotional interview with Denver7's Ann Trujillo, TERI's mom, Margie, told us how her daughter overcame everything life threw at her.
She loved to do things. I mean, she kept herself really busy. And she was a happy girl. She made a happy life for herself, even with her disabilities.
Margie told us one of TERI's proudest achievements was earning her 30-year ring at King Soopers. The company is renaming the rings to honor TERI and her dedication. We will bring you much more of her story on Denver7 News at 6. The outpouring of support for the Boulder community has been amazing.
The Colorado Healing Fund, it was set up to support victims of mass tragedies in Colorado, has pulled in more than $1.3 million just in this past week. And you can give by visiting coloradohealingfund.org or by texting the word Colorado to 20222 to make a $20 donation through AT&T.
The death of Elijah McClain brought the powerful sedative ketamine into the spotlight. Aurora paramedics injected McClain with a strong dose shortly before his death. Many experts believe he'd still be alive if he wasn't given ketamine.
Denver7 Investigates has done numerous reports about this controversial drug. And tonight, investigative reporter Jennifer Kovaleski uncovers how state leaders are now trying to limit the use of ketamine and some other chemical restraints.
People are losing their lives and becoming paralyzed behind the improper use of these very harmful drugs, and it must end.
Strong words from State Representative Leslie Herod. She's talking about potent sedatives like ketamine.
We don't need to see any more Elijah McClains happen in Colorado.
Aurora paramedics injected McClain with a heavy dose of ketamine after estimating his weight wrong.
So when the ambulance gets here, we're going to go ahead and give him some ketamine.
Medics gave him 500 milligrams, a dose meant for a 200-pound person. McClain weighed just 143 pounds. He died days later in police custody.
What will this bill do?
Severely limit the use of ketamine and other chemical restraints in law enforcement settings.
Herod's bill says ketamine and other chemical restraints are only allowed when medics can monitor vital signs and weigh the individual to ensure accurate dosage.
When you can have an accurate weight that's not based on someone's thought about how big you do or don't look. I mean, that's terrifying.
It also prohibits a peace officer from using or influencing the use of a chemical restraint, a scene we saw play out when we uncovered this Aurora body cam video from May of 2019.
Can we get like Versette to calm this dude down or Haldol or something?
You're listening to an Aurora police officer urge paramedics to give a suspect powerful drugs to calm him down.
Let's give him some juice to go to sleep.
And that juice ends up being ketamine.
This is not a video game. It's being used irresponsibly, and it's time to stop and hold people accountable when they use it.
We reached out to the medical community about this bill, but have not yet heard back. In our previous reporting, Colorado emergency room doctors have defended ketamine and say limits on its use are not the solution. Much more to come as this bill now moves to committee. I'm Denver7 investigator Jennifer Kovaleski.
Jen, thank you. More chilling testimony on the third day of now former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's murder trial. Today, prosecutors played surveillance video from the Cup Foods where George Floyd passed a counterfeit bill shortly before his death. And the Cup Foods clerk who accepted the bill took the stand to describe his feelings.
Disbelief and guilt. Okay. Why guilt?
If I would have just not taken the bill, this could have been avoided.
Officer Chauvin is facing manslaughter, second and third degree murder charges. He's pleaded not guilty. The 3 other officers involved in Floyd's death go on trial later this year.
And as you know, Floyd's death led to nationwide protests and some tough conversations within police departments.
Denver7's Ivan Rodriguez spoke with black officers at the Denver Police Department about the job ahead in changing the culture of policing.
For many black police officers across the country, the case involving the death of George Floyd has been a lot of personal reflection.
This badge means to me a lot. It's a heavy responsibility. In one sense, it's a burden. In the other sense, it's a sense of pride.
Wilbur Murray is a Denver police officer in District 2. He says he's had to balance his career with his identity.
With everything that's going on in life and me being a man of color is a burden because I still wear 2 hats. And those hats, you know, you get questioned why you do what you do.
For DPD Sergeant and President of Black Police Officers Organization, Carla Havert, other officers feel the same.
Are you a police officer or are you black first? You know, in my opinion, it's not a choice to be made.
But through the last year of protests and demand for justice across Denver, they know they're in the right place to implement the change they want to see from the inside.
And that responsibility is to show them that we can make changes, we can get this equality that we are fighting for.
At the same time, with an increase in officers deciding to leave police departments across the country, Havert says those who decide to stay are willing to create a better culture.
Those who didn't want to change with the system, I'm certainly a fan of them getting out, because policing should be about the process in which we encourage, we mentor, and we certainly reach out to communities that we have been oppressing throughout our processes for centuries.
Increased outreach and honest conversations are key.
So 20, 30 years from now, our children won't be saying we still have to march for rights.
In the hope that no more innocent lives are lost. Ivan Rodriguez, Denver7.
A major milestone for our state tonight. 1 million people are fully vaccinated, and that represents about 18% of our population. 2.6 million doses have been given total. Pfizer announced today that its COVID vaccine is extremely effective for adolescents. Children are last in line for the vaccine, but experts say we won't get to herd immunity until everyone gets the shot. Pfizer is already testing the vaccine in children ages 5 to 11. Next week, it'll move on to children between ages 2 and 5. This afternoon, Johnson & Johnson announced 15 million doses of its vaccine were ruined due to human error at a Baltimore plant. The company is working to fix the issue. This won't affect doses that have already been given. Those were produced at a different facility. But this could slow down the overall vaccine effort since the U.S. was counting on those 15 million doses.
Well, as more people receive the vaccine, we've seen, interestingly, a piece of data flip nationwide. So most of the new hospitalizations are now young adults. Previously, of course, the majority were those 65 and older, the same group that received priority for the vaccine.
Over 70% of people over age 65, our most vulnerable group, have received at least 1 vaccine dose.
The White House laid out its $2 trillion American Jobs Plan today, and President Biden has called this project the key to an economic rebound.
The plan calls for billions of dollars for new roads and bridges and new investments in public transportation and broadband internet, especially in rural parts of the country. But it also calls for tax increases, which could make it a tough sell on Capitol Hill.
Let's see what this infrastructure package looks like. If it's a Trojan horse for a massive tax increase, put me down as highly skeptical.
It's not a plan that tinkers around the edges. It's a once-in-a-generation investment in America.
The plan calls for an increase to the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. It also adds new penalties for corporations that move jobs overseas. The White House says those tax increases will not impact any American making less than $400,000 a year.
Well, temperatures have bounced back a bit, but wait till you see how warm it gets for the weekend.
Plus, Coors Field prepares to welcome fans for the first time since 2019.
Really excited for the season to start up and gear up this year.
and why you could start noticing higher prices the next time you hit the grocery store.